Hello everybody, Haha No here. This with my second installment of my new jungling videos, this time bringing you Jungle Kayle. Now Jungle Kayle is a very fun character to play, extremely high damage output on the ganks. She's really quick in the jungle with her Righteous Fury, which is her giant flaming awesome sword ability. Her ultimate really turns the tide of a lot of fights and in certain cases just changes the game entirely. And she's really badass. She's a giant angel that flies around. She doesn't even bother walking and shoots rings of fire with a fire halo. It doesn't get much cooler than that. Now, she isn't entirely the best character either. She doesn't get as much farm as she needs to be unstoppable in most games, unless you're fed. I do happen to get farmed and unstoppable in this game, but I like showing you guys what you could do. So, she is really also squishy in the early game. If you go to gank a lane that has a really high burst, it's a chance you're going to die if they turn in fire, if you're anywhere below 3/4 life. And she also falls behind pretty easily if she doesn't have those items or ganks in the beginning. But she's still a very strong character. She's not a very functioning character. She's kind of hard to put on a team. She fits on a lot of teams because of her ultimate, but that's on a utility standpoint. She doesn't have any inherent tankiness, and building tankiness isn't really that amazing, so overall she's kind of hard to place on a team compared to someone like Rammus or Maokai, who fit on any team, because they're just tanks, initiators. So my typical path is going to be wolves and then blue, wraiths, golems. I usually look for a level 3 gank at this time. This game I actually do go top because he's struggling against Vladimir. I don't end up accomplishing anything, but I do notice that mid's overextended, so I go and try to accomplish something there. I play Kayle like a really strong ganking jungler. She does have early CC, which is pretty strong, and it doesn't scale with level, so it starts off really high. This really helps her in the early ganks, and helps her do a lot of damage really early. So here I notice that Vladimir is a little farther up on Jax than I would like him to be. And Temreki has been telling me that he's been having trouble with him as well, so he out-sustains him in the early levels. I'm going to come around and see if I can do anything, but he's way too back for me to do anything, so I'm going to go about returning to my jungle. And I notice that Ahri is getting pretty much up in Kassadin's face. Kassadin's also in hers, so I go this route. I can either do Wraiths or gank middle. I choose to gank middle at this point. So I'm going to come around and see what I can do. She's around half health. And here's where you're going to see the damage come in. Between Kassadin and myself, really high damage. 2 spells from him, 3 auto attacks from me. She barely gets out. I didn't really want to risk my life this early into the game, so I pulled out. But the margin in which she lived was really small. So she brings a really, really high damage gank. It's not like an AP burst, but as far as junglers go, it's pretty good. Now I'm going to return to my wolves. I'm going to do wolves, wraiths, and golems, mostly because I'm lower life. I need to kind of regain myself. I'm not very life sustained until I get a Wriggles. If you did the normal path and didn't gank at level 3, you can go right to red buff and continue your jungle gank from there. The cloth armor and 5 potions start that I do allows you to have enough sustainability to either continue jungling or continue ganking. So if you notice, I was able to jungle, gank top, gank middle, wasting mana and life at each stage, and then to go and return and do more of my route, and I still have about half of my life left. So I'm going to turn on to red and take him down. It's going to take a little bit in the early levels. You don't attack as fast as I'd like to in the early levels, even with the attack speed runes. But you still do a lot of damage, and you're really efficient at the lower camps, so you don't lose as much life there. So I'm going to recall. I typically have my build path set out so that I recall and get my razors. I find razors most important, even more important than boots. Your W does give you a small move speed boost, so it's not as critical. But the razors really just elevate your jungle and help you do the larger buffs, which is what she has problems with early on. Now from the razors, you don't need the Wriggles right away, so I typically go razors into Berserker's Greaves, because she really wants that attack speed, then into Wriggles, and then typically Wit's End. That's going to change this game because I'm fed, and in one of my guides on Mobifier I do mention multiple build paths for being ahead, behind, or whatever else. So I'm watching mid here while I'm going to do my race. It's a typical thing. I usually watch my lanes because I really don't need my attention to be on my race. They're going to die whether I'm looking at them or not. So I'm making sure that, you know, she's keeping herself in check. We have a really high burst combo, so we're waiting for her to extend just a little bit like that. And then here's the one slow, the second slow, and the cone, and she's just taken down before she could do anything. And it's not unusual for a jungler to do, say, 50% or something like that in a gank if you're Maokai or Rammus, but the range at which I could do it at isn't paralleled by those two. I actually pretty much towered over, but since I have 400 range on my auto attacks, it was a tower dive without getting in tower range. So I come up, try to jump on Vladimir here. Jax goes all out. And turns out Vladimir has Summoner Heal, which Jax didn't account for, but I didn't want to have the kill go to waste. I was telling him to pull back, but it was far too late already. So he popped Ghost and everything to get in there. So I'm just going to resume pushing this tower. I'm actually going to hit level 6 up here, which is great. It's a pretty early 6 for me. I'm on par with my center and laner, so this is a great time to be level 6, especially with my ultimate and the impact it's going to have in the coming fights. So I recall, check to see if there's any action going down on the map, because that's more important than doing my jungle at this point. I see there's a big fight going on bottom. Middle comes down, we come up around in their jungle, and I land a really great intervention on Kassadin here. I'm going to slow it down. Riven comes out of nowhere doing somersaults from the shadows. Here's the intervention laying down. It stops Ashe, it stops Ahri, it stops Riven. Kassadin's able to Rift Walk and silence for the kill on Ashe, and then he's able to get out. So that intervention right there turned that from 2 deaths and nothing into my AP mids getting more carried, more fed. So here I notice again, bottom lane, more action. Always action on the bottom lane in this game. They're really overextended. They have no tower. They have no wards. This is later in the game. So I'm flying in. I'm pretty ahead at this point. I have my recurve bow. And I just melt them. Absolutely melt them. So, and one good use for your ultimate aside from that, I'm going to go over a few uses. First use is saving a teammate. So right here, stun lands on her. She gets stunned, sheds all the damage from Ahri. Now it's not going to save her because they continue to go after her, but this is an ideal situation for me. I'm not taking any damage, which means my squishiness isn't coming into effect, and I'm just standing there DPSing people. Kassadin comes in right in time, picks up the double kill. We pick up the tower dive kill on Riven, and we're one step closer to winning this game. Here I'm trying to catch Taric, who is warding, but I didn't see Ashe. So they throw all their CC at me, and notice my team's here. So I activate my ultimate, which is a really offensive use of your ultimate, and just go about chopping them to pieces. Now here I was rushing to get down here to try and save Kassadin, but Soraka did her job. She kept him alive. So now I'm here to just wreak vengeance. We get the slow, and then another slow on Riven. She goes down easy peasy. And then we're going to push right up the middle. And at this point I'm crazy fed. I have a Modred's Blood Razor. I can't really be stopped. I'm actually going to get really adventurous here and just jump right onto Ashe. I'm going to take down Ashe, and then I'm going to take down Ahri at the tower. My intervention is taking all the tower hits, and Soraka lands a good heal on me. Ahri drops. And this is one of the things you can really look forward to when you're playing Kayle. If you do get those early kills and that early feed, she is really extremely fun to play and just desecrates. So Vladimir comes on to me thinking he can kill me, and again he's wrong. He has a lot of life, which is great for my Modred's Razor, and there's 4 of us here. 3 of us here. Kassadin just teleported in. And that's that. Wrap that game up nice and sweet. So you gank your lanes early, you gank your lanes hard, you get fed and you win. Otherwise, it's going to be a little bit of a tough match. So, here's some more uses of the ultimate in a montage. Hope you guys enjoy.